is just magnificent. He's doing such a great job running for governor of California that we decided to name this entire show today after him. We're talking about the great Eldersky, Larry Elder himself. Larry, welcome to the Larry Elder Show.
Carl, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've been doing a phenomenal job out there framing issues. I've been getting messages. One thing that's concerning people a lot is this issue with print your own ballots from home. Can you provide some clarity to the audience concerning that? Because a lot of people are concerned that Democrats will do everything they can to keep you from becoming the sage of Sacramento.
Well, a lot of people are concerned, including the great Eldersky. It's ridiculous. You can print your own ballot. And the idea, I suppose, was that there are some disabled people, handicapped people, who can't get out to the polls. And the idea was that they should have an opportunity to be able to print their own ballot. However, that's now been morphed into anybody can print his or her own ballot.
Oh.
The potential for fraud is in your face. We have a battery of lawyers looking at this thing like a hawk. We're going to file lawsuits at the appropriate time so that, unlike the lawsuits that were filed by Donald Trump, many of them were dismissed because they weren't filed in a timely fashion. We're going to be able to do that. But I'm quite worried about the potential for fraud. And the only answer, Carl, really is for more people to go to the polls and vote for me and make it so overwhelming that even when and if they cheat, they're still going to lose. And I think that's happening. The momentum is amazing. The reaction I'm getting is amazing. People are extremely upset, not just about the coronavirus mandates, but about the phoniness, about the hypocrisy that this guy sat up there at that French Laundry restaurant with the very people that drafted the mandates, not wearing masks, not engaging in social distancing, while just having told you to do the very same thing. His own kids enjoying in-person, in-school private education while shutting down in-school education for public school students here in California. They're already our test scores are abysmal, near the bottom of all 50 states. And these kids were denied a full year of in-person education. Believe it or not, Carl, 75% of black boys in California pre-pandemic could not read at state levels of proficiency, and almost half of third graders could not. And I'm going to be advocating choice, so the money follows the child rather than the other way around. The majority of black and brown parents living in the inner city want school choice, but guess what? They go to the polls year after year after year and pull the lever for the very party who's largely funded by the teachers union that hates school choice because the teachers are not automatic union members.
What's the response that you're seeing on the ground when you offer this information? 75% of black kids in school cannot read at grade level, and you're offering this option of school choice. What do you hear from parents on the ground? And I'm talking about the Latino and black parents. Are you hearing from them on that particular issue?
Absolutely. 80% of the public school students in California, Carl, are black and brown. And of the minority groups, by that I'm talking about blacks, Asian Americans, and Hispanics, the majority of them want Gavin Newsom recalled, and the primary reason is because of the quality of public education. It is an issue that's resonating with people, resonating with Democrats and independents, again, many of whom just voted for this man 2 years ago. So I think the momentum is in our favor. That's why Gavin Newsom has brought in Joe Biden, who's made a comment, Kamala Harris, who's made a comment. Elizabeth Warren cut an ad for him and didn't say one word about his record, just talked about this being a Republican takeover because that's their talking point. That's all they've got.
Okay. You have, and I've seen you in other interviews, but what's your take on mask and vaccine mandates? Because that's going to be important to a lot of people, I'm sure. So give us your take on that.
Well, when I get elected governor, assuming there are still mask and corona and vaccine mandates, they're going to be repealed before I have my first cup of coffee, and I don't even drink coffee.
I don't. Oh, good for you. I don't drink coffee either, but oh man, I like that. I love it.
Carl, you and I are hyper enough without coffee. Are you kidding? We'd be serial killers if we drank coffee.
You mentioned something when we were talking during the break, and I think this is extremely important. Whenever I go back to visit L.A., I can drive down the freeway, and I can see that the landscaping, the forestry has not been well kept. You called this a war on logging. Explain the impact that that's having on the fires that you guys are experiencing right now.
Well, that's right. The logging industry is a shell of what it used to be because the environmentalists believe that trees are more important than people. And as a result, the trees have gotten so thick and the vegetation has gotten so thick that it provides kindling for all these fires. That's one of the big reasons. The other thing is this. The largest utility, the public gas and electric PG&E utility, they have been forced into spending billions of dollars on renewables. They're unreliable, and they're spending more money on renewables than they are on fire safety. As a result, a lot of trees are scraping next to power lines, and if the trees were trimmed back and they had the money to do that, this wouldn't happen. So this is largely because of this phony narrative that we're all going to die because of climate change and global warming.
Okay, so what is your – so you plan to come in and just immediately deal with the forestry management, get that into shape.
Right.
So
okay. That's right. That's right. The outgoing governor, Jerry Brown, wanted 500,000 acres of fallen trees and dead, dry vegetation to be cleared away. I think this guy has done maybe 13,000 acres, and he lied by a factor of 7 as to how much he's done. The other thing is this, Carl. There's been a war on nuclear. We have one nuclear power plant called Diablo, which is still operational. We shut down one called San Onofre a few years ago. We love Japan. We love France. They get the bulk of their energy from nuclear, and nuclear power plants are far more safe than they used to be. People are always thinking about images like 3 Mile Island. By the way, nobody died at 3 Mile Island, but the nuclear power plants are far more efficient and far more safe than they used to be, and they are clean burning. They don't emit CO2. So I'm going to explain to Joe and Joe Sixpack in a way they can understand why we ought not to have this war on nuclear. We ought to reverse our attitude and begin building more nuclear power plants in California. We also have a water shortage, and that's because we're not building desalination plants. There's a desert country called Israel. There's a desert country called Dubai. They both are water self-sufficient because they've been building desalination plants. We're not doing that in California, again, because there's a war on building any damn thing in California, and I'm going to reverse that.
Okay, all right. So, Larry, we only have a minute before we go to break. I have a few more questions I want to ask you, but I don't know what your time is looking like. Can you stay through the break?
I sure can.
Okay, let's go ahead and touch on homelessness. We got a minute before the break. Give us your take on how you'll fix the homelessness issue in California, or at least attack it.
Well, you can't just have a housing first policy, which is what Gavin Newsom is doing. Building homes, by the way, far more expensively than would be built by the private sector, without dealing with the underlying reason why so many people are homeless. And many of them are mentally ill or they're addicted to substances. We need to treat them, and the government can't do that. Churches need to get involved. Let them adopt a street, adopt a block, adopt a neighborhood, and having done so, make sure that they have low-cost housing, which we'll be able to do when we unleash the private sector. So I'm going to declare a statewide emergency on homelessness so that the private sector can build low-cost housing, and I'm going to get churches involved. I'm going to issue a statewide challenge for churches, synagogues, mosques to get involved. Adopt a street, adopt a neighborhood, adopt a block, and pick up these people and deal with them, and then they'll have somewhere to go.
Okay, guys, we are talking to the great Eldersky himself, Larry Elder. This is Carl Jackson, and for Larry Elder, we'll be back in a few.